Cooking with space. Today I'm making Carnitas tacos. So roll up them sleeves and crack open the meat of the day, which is pork shoulder or pork butt. Try for bone in if you can, but otherwise don't worry. Cut the pork into smaller chunks to make it easier to work with. And then even smaller chunks still. Carnitas translates to little meats after all. Keep an eye out for larger chunks of fat. We'll chop those off and get them off to the side for now. You can see the meat is already pretty fatty on its own. There might be a side of skin on yours. Just go ahead and slice that off. When working around the bone, try not to handle the knife as awkwardly as I do. And if it's a little too difficult, then just score the meat with cuts about the same size as your smaller chunks, so it cooks relatively the same. Don't worry about it otherwise. It's gonna slide right off the bone later. Transfer the meat cubes into a bowl and then also finely chop some of that fat from earlier as well and toss that in. We got some scraps here, those are gonna feed the cats. Grab a large baking tin, mine is 9x13, and put a glug of oil in there. Glug the pork as well while we've got the bottle open. Then just work the oil into the corners and along the walls of the pan. Slice an orange crossways and squeeze out the juice, then toss the carcass in the pan. Same with a lime. Demolish a bulb of garlic with your raw power, then use a knife to crush the cloves. It will make it easier to remove the husks. And then bam, toss the cloves in wholesale. You'll find bad garlic every now and then. It will be sunken and discolored like this. But luckily, garlic is an allium, so you can just chop off the bad bit and use the rest. I like a lot of garlic, so I'm using 13 garlic cloves. Next, onto the herbs and spices. I'm using Mexican oregano, smoked paprika, cinnamon, chili powder, cayenne powder, salt, and pepper. As far as I know, there's no set-in-stone recipe for proper carnitas, but you'll definitely want orange juice and cinnamon if you're using pork. Otherwise, freestyle it. Give it a nice mix and then transfer it to the pan, where I'm also going to perilously crack open a Mexican beer and add that to the party. Just enough to cover the meat about halfway. Take a sip and then get this covered with a lot of tin foil. 1 sheet, 2 sheets. We'll put that sheet back. And then tightly crimp the edges before placing in a 275 Fahrenheit oven for 3.5 hours or about 1 D&D session.
I cast sleep on everyone.
Everyone?
How do I find my perception?
I want to respec my character. Can I respec my character?
Nat 20!
Okay, so you obliterate the shopkeeper.
Or instead, we can steal another Chef John recipe and make some corn tortillas, which will need a cup of corn masa, this stuff right here, a bit of salt, some melted lard, which will burn you, so be careful, And finally 3/4 cups of hot water. Get it all combined with your fingers to get a second hot lard burn. And mingle everything together until it forms. At which point I'll knead it for a few minutes. There's no gluten to develop here, but I still feel like this helps a bit. Form a nice ball and then cover with a damp towel for about 30 minutes. I don't have a tortilla press, so I'm using frying pans. This one has ridges on the bottom, which will press into the tortilla. I don't want that. I want a fully flat one like this. Roll up them sleeves to grab a freezer bag, as well as your dullest pair of scissors to get a plastic cover for the torts. Give up on that and find something a little stronger. Be mindful that any creases in the bag will show on the tortilla, so if perfect tortillas are your thing, then be gentle on this step. Pinch off some dough, form a ball, place it between the two sides of the bag, and then give it a smush. Try to roll with it a bit, as opposed to just pressing straight down. The strength you exert here will determine the thickness of the tortilla. I like them thin, so this is good here. Peel it off slowly to avoid any tears like that one. Don't worry about the first tortilla that much, it's the test tortilla. It'll help you get a feel for the real thing. About a minute on each side, pressing down after flipping to get a darker crust. You'll know when to flip initially when the edges start to curl a bit. Chop at it with the corner of your spatula if air bubbles start to form. And then toss it in a bowl and wrap it with a kitchen towel. As we add more, this is going to kind of allow them to steam cook each other. It'll make them have a much better texture. Here I've sped up some footage of the tortillas being cooked, so you can see what happens on each side. When all are finished, I'm going to let them sit until about room temperature. Hey, just look at them. Already you can tell they blow store-bought ones out of the water. Our pork is almost ready, so I'm getting the rest of the taco ingredients prepared. Mainly this white onion that I'm going to dice. The chop in half, remove the top, and then vertical, lateral, and horizontal slashes method is great to get the tiny diced onions you can find at any good taco shop. Time is up and the carnitas smell amazing. Checking for proper temperature, and oh yeah, we're good. What did I tell you earlier? The meat just falls right off the bone. Look at that. Discard the orange and lime carcasses as well as the garlic cloves. And then you can use a colander or a spider to get all the meat out. I'm gonna set the meat in a bowl and then dump the braising liquid into a separate bowl. Then I'm gonna transfer the meat back into the pan. I'm gonna splash some of that liquid back on top of the meat. And then it's onto the top rack of the oven, underneath a broiler set on high. Three minutes for that. Gonna get some tortillas heating back up to just wake them a little. Alright, 3 minutes is up and it's another round of basting. Then another 3.5 minutes inside the oven. I can get some lime wedges sliced now. And then when time is up, you'll be greeted by this. Isn't that beautiful? Transfer it back into the bowl for easier storing and plating purposes. Then it's on to taco construction. Generous amounts of carnitas onto our homemade tortillas. Raw diced white onion next. A little bit of cilantro ripped up and scattered about. And a light dusting of cotija cheese. Arrange them in a more visually appealing manner, both for presentation's sake and for the requisite photos. And then, of course, hit it with a lime squeeze. And then this taco is just fantastic. Probably one of the best things you could make. That sound of fury is really the only sound you can make after eating something so good. Anyways, thank you for watching Cooking with Space.